They say you never really appreciate something until it's gone well in Green Lake. We got that lesson with the force of a sledgehammer, not a gentle nudge. One minute the school gym was packed, kids parading potato batteries and science fair volcanoes, and the next, bam, pitch black, lights out. The fire alarms howled, my phone buzzed like it was possessed, and all across town people's lives got stuck on pause. You know what really made my blood run cold? In the ICU, monitors flatlined for 4 full seconds, and you could feel the panic like a punch in the gut. The backup generator didn't kick in, because get this, the wind turbine that fed emergency power to the grid had been chainsawed to pieces, not by vandals, not by a storm, but by our own HOA president, Karen Weatherby, all because she said it was ugly. Let me back up a sec. Just 2 days before I'd noticed my weather station was all out of whack, rotational data from the turbine up on Ridgepoint Hill was dead. At first I blamed a bird strike or maybe a busted bearing, but when I drove up there, what I found made me want to scream. The whole head of the turbine, 3 big steel blades that powered almost half our emergency grid, was lying twisted in the grass, sawed clean through, fresh cuts, splinters everywhere. It looked like a lumberjack had gone berserk. And taped to the base in a plastic sleeve there, it was a note, "Your windmill violates HOA Sightline Code Section 7.4. Kindly remove all remaining parts within 48 hours or be fined $500 per day. Signed, Karen." Here's what folks need to understand. I live right at the border of the HOA's precious jurisdiction. That windmill predates half the homes in this zip code. I built it myself with FEMA grant money and help from actual engineers. It's legal, inspected every year, registered, all that jazz. The HOA has no business with it. But Karen, she's had it out for me since the day she caught a glimpse of my red tomato greenhouse. She once tried to shut down my duck pond for mosquito risk. Now apparently the windmill was a blight on her existence. You ever get that feeling right before a storm that everything's about to go sideways? The very week Karen decided to play Paul Bunyan. I'd been working with emergency services to prep for storm season. The turbine was our fail-safe relay when the main lines went down. It kept the firehouse lit, the school radios alive, and the hospital breathing machines running. Not anymore. Sure enough, a freak summer storm rolled in the very next night, lightning, high winds, the works. Transformers blew, the grid collapsed, and the town plunged into darkness. Karen's little act of aesthetic preservation turned into the most expensive landscaping in county history. I rushed into town to check the control box first. Responders were everywhere, traffic lights stuck on red kids huddled in the school gym, parents panicking. The mayor and fire chief were soaked and frazzled, standing by a fried fuse panel like 2 guys who'd just watched their retirement vanish. When I told them what Karen had done, they thought I was joking until I showed them her note. By sunrise, word had gotten out. Channel 5 showed up. Parents and teachers gathered at the busted turbine, waving signs, "Wind power saves, lives don't let HOA stand for heartless, overbearing arrogance." Karen, meanwhile, posted a statement online calling the turbine an eyesore and claiming it was outdated and unsafe, never mind the nearest house is a 1/4 mile away and built like a bunker. She said spinning blades caused residential anxiety, which is the kind of thing only someone with zero anxiety about anything except property values could say. But I wasn't just going to stew in it. I dug up every email, every permit, every contract. The original agreement with the town said the turbine was a designated emergency asset. Tampering was a federal no-no. And as luck would have it, the sudden blackout flagged the system at FEMA's regional office. 2 hours later, my phone rang. "This is Agent Lang, Homeland Security. Apparently, if you mess with backup energy tied to a hospital, you get the feds involved." That night, a FEMA inspector showed up at my door, mud up to his knees, looking about 2 days past his last good night's sleep. I gave him everything: paperwork, drone footage, the works. Then we watched security cam video together, grainy but clear, Karen in her pearls and hat standing next to a guy with a chainsaw pointing and bossing him around. 3 minutes later, the blades hit the ground. The inspector's eyebrows climbed halfway to his hairline. The very next day, things went nuclear. Federal, local, and even grid consultants launched an investigation. The town, though, didn't just sit on their hands. Kids started a fundraiser, local teens spray-painted signs, and a volunteer brigade started organizing to rebuild. Someone even made a Minecraft time-lapse of the turbine getting restored, and it racked up 50,000 views overnight. I wasn't looking for attention, I just wanted the lights back on, especially for folks like the grandma down the block on oxygen or the firefighter whose backup radio ran off my power. That windmill was about security, not pride. But Karen didn't quit. She doubled down, held meetings, issued more fines, tried to redraw jurisdictional borders on a blurry zoning map like a kid with a crayon. Her little fan club started backing her, claiming I'd built a secret power monopoly, and accused me of environmental intimidation, which is what you say when you can't explain why you hate a windmill. Meanwhile, real people were organizing for change. The mayor called an emergency town meeting. That's when Karen strutted in with a PowerPoint called Restoring Neighborhood Integrity and Urgent Aesthetic Intervention. She flashed stock photos of exploding windmills and random statistics claiming my turbine caused psychological blight. I waited her out, then plugged in my own flash drive FEMA registration disaster permits video footage of her orchestrating the destruction. The room went silent. Even Karen's defenders started shifting in their seats. The fire chief stood up, voice shaking, and said, "You didn't just cut metal, ma'am. You cut lifelines." The mayor suspended all HOA authority over infrastructure right there on the spot. Karen went white as a sheet. But the fallout had just begun. Within days, a FEMA agent and a structural inspector arrived to assess the crime scene. They took photos, collected blade fragments, and confirmed what we all knew: deliberate sabotage. I gave them logs from my turbine sensors, exact times, sudden torque loss, all of it. They told me I'd be called to testify if charges were filed. For once, the burden of proof wasn't on me. Karen was going to have to answer for her actions. Support flooded in. Marcus. The machinist offered to fabricate new connectors. Tom, the retired Navy electrician, showed up with a welder. The mayor wrote a check. The GoFundMe topped $50K. Parents posted about how the turbine kept their kids alive during storms. Even the HOA's own board started to fracture. Karen's vice president resigned. Another board member left an apologetic voicemail, and you could almost see her little empire crumbling. That weekend, we had the first true community workday on Ridgepoint Hill. Dozens turned out, dads, teens, grandmas with cookies. We sanded, rebolted, rewired, and for the first time in years, people who'd barely spoken before worked shoulder to shoulder. Karen, of course, showed up once, arms crossed, glaring at us from the edge of the field like a villain at the wrong rally. Nobody even acknowledged her. Someone muttered, "Thought I smelled bleach in desperation," and everyone cracked up. By the time the turbine stood tall again, gleaming in the sunset, we'd built more than just a machine. We'd built trust. That night, we lit lanterns along the path and shared sandwiches, music, and stories until the stars came out. It was the first time in ages I felt like we were more than just neighbors. We were a community. But Karen wasn't done flailing. She filed a cease and desist letter accusing me of humiliation and threatening my reputation for beautification. The town's legal counsel shot it down so fast, it practically left a burn mark. Meanwhile, the security cam video went viral, slow-mo edits, dramatic soundtracks, the whole deal. Karen became the chainsaw chairwoman meme. Soon after, the municipal board summoned her for a formal hearing to decide the fate of the HOA. The hearing was packed wall to wall with everyone from the mayor to the fire chief to shopkeepers and teachers. I laid out the facts: FEMA registration, emergency permits, security footage. Chief Rowley described how the blackout nearly cost lives. A nurse talked about the ICU blackout window, almost losing a patient. Karen tried to play the victim, but the HOA's own former secretary brought out emails showing Karen had schemed for months to clear the overgrown lawn fan and replace it with a vanity sculpture park. Even her contractor admitted she'd told him to keep it off the books. The council stripped Karen of her presidency, suspended the HOA's authority over infrastructure, and barred her from seeking office for a decade. The room erupted in quiet applause. But the story didn't end there. FEMA pressed federal charges for interference with emergency infrastructure, and for once the consequences weren't mine to bear. We rebuilt the turbine even better, stronger, with encrypted feedback, solar backup, and a sign reading "Protected Emergency Asset." The town designated it as Ridgepoint Emergency Power Station 1. For the first time in a long time, people relaxed. Parents waved, kids did little turbine dances, the postman hummed a parody song. The mayor handed me a key to the city during a small ceremony by the very hill Karen once tried to erase. Karen vanished for a while, rumors flying that she'd holed up with family out of state. FEMA, meanwhile, wanted every shred of evidence I could give them. The HOA, under new leadership, passed a public safety first resolution and got back to sensible management. I went back to tinkering in my shop, except now as Green Lake's first infrastructure liaison. I made sure this would never happen again. We built a second turbine with the high school engineering club, reinforced the system. And okay, I'll admit a little petty revenge. I bought the lot next to Karen's old place and put up a noisy decorative windmill. Not connected to the grid, just spinning and creaking all day, a reminder. Months passed. Life got better. FEMA used our case as a national example. Students won scholarships for their rebuild efforts. And then one day, Karen herself reappeared, smaller, older-looking, lost. She stood beneath the blades, hands clasped, and quietly said, "I didn't know. I thought I was protecting the neighborhood. I lost everything. I just wanted to say it, even if it doesn't matter." I let her speak. There was nothing more to say. The windmill spun behind me, the town safe again. Some mistakes can't be fixed with words. That night I watched the turbine's blades turning under the stars, felt maybe for the first time real peace. We'd rebuilt more than just metal, we'd restored faith in each other. And maybe, just maybe, Karen listened to the sound of those blades and understood some things are bigger than pride or a perfect view or even a grudge. So let me ask you, where do you stand? Was Karen justified? Or was she just another bully with too much power? Do you trust HOAs with your community's safety, or do you think neighbors should draw the line? Drop your thoughts below. What's right, what's wrong, and where's the real line between beauty and survival in a place like Green Lake?